high school. She came back many years later with my father, who was briefly in the 80s director of Oregon Public Broadcasting. He died at, unfortunately, a fairly early age, but she continued to live in Portland until 2009. Finally convinced her to move east and live with us in Amherst, not in our house, but just 3 miles down the road. And then just as she moved east, the very year she lived east, oddly enough, just by coincidence, my daughter-in-law started med school at OHSC, and that's brought my oldest son out here. He's still here, so I'm staying with him, both guys. They now have a 22-month-old granddaughter, and my other oldest biological son lives out here. I also have 3 stepsons, so lots of family, but Portland's a really important part. I love the opportunity to come out here, especially when it's like summer vacation compared to Amherst Mountain. There are still 3 feet of snow. So thanks, Brian, for that really generous introduction, and thanks especially for Becky for putting this event together. In all honesty, I can't think of a group it is a greater honor to speak before. I have profound respect for Veterans for Peace. I think it really is offers one of the few opportunities we've had in 40 years of horrible repackaging of the Vietnam War to have finally something like a full accounting, a full reckoning of what we did in and to Vietnam and what we continue to do around the world. And that's why the effort to produce a kind of counter commemoration of the Vietnam War, which Veterans for Peace has been at the forefront of in introducing, as you know, this project Full Disclosure. That's what it's called, and you can find it on the websites to the extent that you can distribute it around, and I'll try to talk about it as much as I can as well. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm a little skeptical that people are really not paying too much attention to these things. I think we've become so inured to a permanent state of warfare. And therefore, while, as I say, I can't think of an audience I better speak to in a way, it does feel a bit like I'm speaking to the chorus. And I give these talks, and my greatest ambition is to try to get books like this into the hands of a younger generation, all kinds of people, but in particular a younger generation of veterans. And I see some younger faces here, and that's very encouraging. But I'd like the book to do well because I think, not because I think I can make any money on it, honestly, but that would be great if I did. But one thing I point out is it's incredibly hard to sell serious books in this country. Even though I have a fancy trade publisher, Viking, the initial print run is only 15,000. They'll be thrilled if it sells out, but it may well not. Many very good, serious books sink like stones. And so, that's my little sales pitch. If you could, I think you could actually learn a lot from this book, even though I've learned it, much of what's in there I've learned from people like you. But I think it's particularly revelatory to younger readers because there's so many eerie and troubling parallels between the 1960s and our present day, and it's just so staggering to continue to be reminded of how little we have learned about and from the Vietnam War. I mean, policymakers have learned their lessons, but they're, of course, the entire wrong lessons. In my view, the cardinal lesson of the Vietnam War is that our foreign policy should be far more democratic and accountable to an informed public, not lied to, not held in secret, not managed by an increasingly tiny and ever more secretive elite that is unaccountable to not just citizens like us, but unaccountable even to our congressional representatives who constitutionally are supposed to exercise power over matters of war and peace, but have failed in that task. The real goal of American Reckoning is very simple to describe and not so easy to actually pull off, but it seemed to me the most obvious of all questions to raise, which is how is it that the war in Vietnam
then the longest war in American history. That record has been broken. But how is it that that war came into American consciousness? How did it change the way we think about ourselves as a nation and people? And what are its enduring legacies? And such an obvious question, I thought surely this must have been exhausted to death. There must be thousands of books that have taken this on. And we do know that there are now 30,000 books that have been written about one or another aspect of the Vietnam War. But oddly enough, very few have taken on, this very basic subject. So, really, the heart of the book tries to make the case that no event in our history, in my view, has done so much to fundamentally challenge a basic American faith, the broad faith in American exceptionalism. And by that I mean there are a lot of elements to that idea of American superiority. But in terms of foreign policy, the heart of American exceptionalism is the idea that we have forever and forever will be an invincible and indispensable force for good in the world. We are truly the good guys of history, that we are always on the side of democracy and freedom, that we want nothing for ourselves. And I think it's a very, very dangerous faith, both because it's not borne out by, it's false to history, it's not borne out by the historical record, but it's also horrible for our international reputation. I mean, what other people in the world want to constantly hear the drumbeat of, we're the greatest country in the world? I mean, will any of us send our children off to school and encourage them to go into the classroom and say, I'm the most exceptional kid in this class? I'm going to bring my blessings to all of you benighted souls. So, so I emphasize this concept throughout the book because I think one of the things we've forgotten about the 1960s and at least early 1970s is the degree to which we really effectively did challenge, really shatter that concept. Just to pick one little example, poll figures, by 1971, not only did 71% of Americans believe that the war in Vietnam had been a mistake, they actually told pollsters 58%, clear majority, 58% thought the war was immoral. I mean, that is not a word that Americans typically have applied to any previous war, even though we have many immoral wars. I mean, think of the invasion of Mexico in 1846, or the counterinsurgency in the Philippines, or the occupation of Nicaragua way back in the day, and the return to Nicaragua in the 80s. I mean, the record is replete with immoral foreign policy. And the 60s challenged everything, so people started to go back and think for the first time about what we had done, how we acted, and how Vietnam was really truly not an aberration or an exception to an essentially imperial foreign policy. So, and I would also I thought I needed to really understand how profoundly America challenged those deeply felt assumptions about American virtue and American superiority. We also need to recover a sense of how deeply felt that faith was back in the days after World War II. We came out of the war richer and more powerful and more unscathed than any other country. Our economy was booming, and that really was the heyday of American exceptionalism. So I try to paint that picture in the opening chapters, and many of you have lived that, so I'm really not going to read any passages from that. And you also know quite a bit, many of you, about the 60s, so I'm not going to say as much about that. But I'm really, for today, wanting to focus more on really fascinating ways in which, in the decades after 1975, after the end of the war, we managed, like Humpty Dumpty, to put the pieces back together again of this idea, recobble a form of American exceptionalism. And as you know, it seems to be impossible to run for higher office in this land without paying homage to this greatest nation in the world creed. I distinctly remember Obama in his first campaign in '08 being asked by a journalist, well, you know, and Fox and the right wing is always like throwing American exceptionalism in our face. And they asked him, do you believe in that? And he said, well, yeah, of course, I believe in that, but you know, if I were a Brit or, you know, Dutch, I'd probably believe those countries were exceptional too. So that was not what they were looking for, obviously.